Humanity survived extinction 7 times before reaching the stars, and we remember. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent when the human ambassador walked in. Her name was Elena Vasquez, and she moved with a calm that made the alien delegates uncomfortable. They had seen many species enter this room over the thousands of years the Council had existed. They had seen proud warriors, clever merchants, and humble scholars, but they had never seen anything quite like a human. Ambassador Krelvax of the Zorani Empire leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing as he studied the small creature. Humans were so fragile-looking. Their skin was soft. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armor. Yet something about this one made the scales on his neck stand up in warning. "You are the representative of Earth?" Krelvax asked, his voice booming through the chamber. "I am," Elena said. She took her seat at the small table that had been prepared for her species. It was positioned at the very edge of the room, as far from the important delegates as possible. This was by design. New species always started at the bottom. "We have reviewed your application for membership in the Galactic Council," said High Counselor Muraset, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell. "Your species is interesting." "Thank you," Elena said. "That was not a compliment," Krelvax interrupted. "Your species has only had faster-than-light travel for 50 of your years. You have barely left your own star system. You are infants compared to the rest of us." Elena nodded slowly. "You are right, we are new to space travel." "Then why do you believe you deserve a seat at this table?" asked another delegate, a creature that looked like a giant insect with wings of shimmering gold. This was Representative Chitka of the Hive Collective. "What do humans have to offer the galaxy?" Elena was quiet for a moment. She looked around the chamber at the dozens of alien species, all watching her with curiosity or contempt or both. Then she smiled, and it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something others did not. "We offer survival," she said. There was confused murmuring among the delegates. Krelvax let out a harsh laugh. "Survival? Your species is barely 100,000 years old. The Zorani have existed for 3 million years. The Hive has been traveling between stars for 2 million. What could you possibly know about survival?" Elena reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the table, and a holographic display appeared above it, showing a blue and green planet. "Earth. Let me tell you about my people," she said, "and then you can decide if we belong here." The chamber grew quiet again as Elena began to speak. 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano erupted on our world. It was called Toba. The ash blocked out the sun for years. The temperature dropped. Plants died. Animals died. Our ancestors, who numbered perhaps a few 100,000 at the time, were reduced to maybe 10,000 individuals. Some scientists think it was even fewer, perhaps just a few thousand. She changed the image to show a world covered in gray ash and ice. "We should have died. Any sensible species would have died, but we did not. We survived the cold. We survived the hunger. We survived." Krelvax shifted in his seat but said nothing. "That was the first extinction event we survived," Elena continued. "The second came about 12,000 years ago. The Ice Age was ending, but it was not ending smoothly. There was a period of rapid cooling called the Younger Dryas. It lasted over 1,000 years. Many of the large animals we depended on for food went extinct. Once again, our numbers dropped. Once again, we should have died out." The hologram showed vast fields of ice spreading across continents. "But we learned to farm. We domesticated animals. We built permanent settlements. We adapted." Representative Chitka tilted her head. "Two near extinctions is unfortunate but not unique. Many species have faced similar challenges." "I am not finished," Elena said. "The third extinction event came about 3,600 years ago. A volcanic eruption on an island called Thera destroyed one of our most advanced civilizations. The blast was heard thousands of miles away. The The tsunamis wiped out coastal cities. The climate changed for decades. Trade networks collapsed. Kingdoms fell. She paused. We rebuilt. The fourth extinction event came about 1,500 years ago. A plague swept across our world. We call it the Plague of Justinian. It killed perhaps a quarter of our population. Entire cities were emptied. The survivors had to burn the bodies in mass graves because there were too many to bury properly. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Krelvax had stopped his dismissive gestures. We recovered. We grew our numbers back. And then, about 700 years ago, the plague returned. We call this one the Black Death. It killed a third of our entire species. In some regions, it killed 2/3. There were not enough living people to bury the dead. Children wandered alone because everyone they knew had died. Elena's voice remained calm, but there was something hard in her eyes now. We survived that too. High Counselor Muraset's crystalline form pulsed with light. 6 extinction events. That is remarkable. 7, Elena corrected. The 7th came less than 100 years ago by our calendar. We call it the Second World War, though it was really just the climax of a series of conflicts. We killed each other. 60 million dead in just 6 years. We invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in an instant. We built factories designed not to create things, but to kill people as efficiently as possible. She changed the hologram to show a mushroom cloud rising over a ruined city. We came very close to destroying ourselves completely. There were moments when our leaders held their fingers over buttons that would have ended our species forever, but we stopped. We pulled back from the edge. Elena stood up from her seat and walked toward the center of the chamber. The guards moved to stop her, but High Counselor Muraset waved them away. You ask what humans have to offer the galaxy, Elena said, turning slowly to address every delegate. You look at us and see a young species, a weak species, a species with soft skin and no claws, and you are right about all of those things. She stopped and faced Krelvax directly. But we are still here. 7 times the universe tried to kill us. 7 times we looked extinction in the face, and 7 times we refused to die. The delegates stared at the human ambassador as she stood in the center of the chamber. Several of them had pulled up their own data devices and were quietly checking her claims. The numbers were accurate. Her species had indeed survived multiple catastrophic events that should have ended them. Ambassador Krelvax was the first to speak. Survival alone does not make a species valuable to the Council. The Zorani have also faced challenges. We conquered them through strength. Have you? Elena asked. Tell me, Ambassador, has your species ever truly faced extinction? Krelvax bared his teeth, which was a sign of aggression among the Zorani. We have fought many wars. We have lost many battles. That is not what I asked. I asked if you have ever stood at the edge of complete annihilation, if you have ever looked at your species and wondered if this generation would be the last. The Zorani ambassador did not answer. Elena turned to Representative Chitka. What about the hive? In your 2 million years of existence, have you ever been reduced to a handful of survivors, struggling to find enough food to see another day? The insectoid being's wings fluttered nervously. The hive has always been strong in numbers. It is our greatest protection. Exactly, Elena said. You have never been weak. You have never been desperate. You have never had to claw your way back from the very edge of death. She walked back to her table and sat down. That is what makes humans different. We know what it feels like to almost die, all of us. It is written in our genes. It is recorded in our histories. It is taught to every child from the moment they can understand words. High Counselor Muraset floated closer to Elena's position. You speak of these events as if they were gifts rather than tragedies. They were tragedies, Elena agreed. Billions of my ancestors died so that I could stand here today. I do not celebrate their deaths, but I will not pretend that their suffering taught us nothing. And what did it teach you? Murasett asked. Alina was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Then she spoke. It taught us that nothing is permanent. Empires fall, species die, stars burn out. The universe does not care if we exist or not. There is no cosmic force that will save us when things go wrong. There is only us, only what we can do with our own hands and our own minds. She looked around the chamber again. You have all built great civilizations. You have technologies that make ours look like children's toys. You have been traveling between stars while we were still figuring out how to make fire. But I wonder, how will you react when real danger comes? When something threatens not just your power but your very existence? Krelvax slammed his fist on his table. You dare to question the strength of the Zorani? I question the strength of anyone who has never been tested, Alina replied calmly. Your species has dominated every conflict it has entered. You have never truly lost. You have never had to rebuild from nothing. How do you know you can do it? The Zorani ambassador opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The question had struck something deep inside him. There is a human saying, Alina continued. What does not kill us makes us stronger. It is not just a saying to us. It is our entire history. Every extinction event we survived changed us, made us more resilient, more adaptable, more determined. She pulled up another image on her holographic display. It showed a small, primitive shelter made of animal skins and bones. After Toba, when our ancestors were reduced to a few thousand individuals, they learned to cooperate in ways they never had before. They had to. Alone, they would die. Together, they had a chance. The image changed to show ancient farming communities. After the Younger Dryas, we learned that we could not depend on nature to provide for us. We had to take control of our own food supply. We became farmers. We became builders. We became the masters of our own survival. Another image showing ancient trade routes. After each collapse, we rebuilt our trade networks bigger and better. We learned that isolation was death. Connection was life. The image shifted to show modern hospitals and laboratories. After the plagues, we learned that disease could be fought. We developed medicine. We built hospitals. We studied the tiny creatures that tried to kill us, and we learned to defeat them. Finally, the image showed the Earth from space, beautiful and blue. After we nearly destroyed ourselves with war, we learned that we needed to work together, not just as tribes or nations, but as a species. We created organizations to prevent future wars. We signed treaties to limit our most dangerous weapons. We began to see ourselves as one people, sharing one small world. Alina turned off the display. Each disaster taught us something. Each extinction event left us stronger than before, not because suffering is good, but because we refuse to let our suffering be meaningless. High Counselor Murasett pulsed with brighter light, a sign of deep thought among energy beings. You speak of unity, yet our records show that humans still fight among yourselves. Your species still has wars, still has inequality, still has conflict. Yes, Alina admitted. We are not perfect, we have never claimed to be. We are still learning, still growing, still making mistakes, but we are getting better, slowly, painfully, but better. She stood up again. 100 years ago, my species was killing each other by the millions. 50 years ago, we had weapons pointed at ourselves that could end all life on Earth. Today, I stand before you representing all of humanity. Not just one nation or one group, but everyone. That is progress. That is the result of our survival lessons. Representative Chitka raised one of her many limbs. What you describe sounds like wisdom, but wisdom and strength are not the same thing. The galaxy is dangerous. There are threats out there that could destroy your species as easily as stepping on an insect. I know, Alina said. We have studied your histories. We know about the void plague that nearly wiped out the crystalline beings. We know about the dark fleet that destroyed a dozen civilizations before it was stopped. We know about the silence the thing that waits between galaxies and consumes everything it touches. The chamber grew very quiet at the mention of the silence. It was not spoken of lightly. "We know how dangerous the universe is," Alina continued. "We have always known. Our planet has tried to kill us. Our own bodies have tried to kill us. We have tried to kill ourselves. Compared to all of that, the threats of space seem familiar." Krelvax shook his head. "You cannot compare your planetary disasters to galactic threats. They are not the same." "No, they are not," Alina agreed. "The threats out here are bigger, more dangerous, but the principle is the same. When danger comes, you have two choices. You can give up and die, or you can fight and survive." She walked to the center of the chamber again, but this time the guards did not move to stop her. "Humans have never chosen to give up, not once in our entire history. When Toba covered our world in ash, we did not give up. When plagues killed half our population, we did not give up. When we invented weapons that could destroy everything, we did not give up." Her voice grew stronger. "And we will not give up now. Whatever challenges the galaxy throws at us, we will face them. We will adapt. We will learn. We will survive, because that is what humans do." High Counselor Muraset floated in silence for a long moment. Then the energy being spoke. "The council will recess to discuss your application. Please wait outside, Ambassador Vasquez." Alina bowed her head respectfully and walked toward the exit. As she passed Krelvax, the Zorani ambassador spoke quietly. "You are either the bravest species in the galaxy, or the most foolish." Alina smiled. "We have been called both many times. We are still here." The waiting room outside the council chamber was designed to be intimidating. The ceiling was impossibly high. The furniture was sized for creatures much larger than humans. The lights were dim and cast strange shadows. Alina suspected this was intentional. New species were meant to feel small and insignificant here. She sat in a chair that was too big for her and waited. Her translator device hummed quietly in her ear, picking up fragments of conversation from passing aliens. Most of it was about her, about humans, about whether they deserved a place in the galaxy. An hour passed, then 2, then 3. Finally, a small creature approached her. It looked like a ball of soft fur with dozens of tiny legs. A Zelari, if Alina remembered correctly. They were one of the oldest species in the council, though they rarely spoke during meetings. "Ambassador Vasquez," the Zelari said in a soft voice that her translator rendered as female. "My name is Counselor Puff. May I sit with you?" Alina gestured to the seat next to her, which was still too big for both of them. "Of course." Puff climbed into the chair and settled herself. "Your speech was interesting. I wanted to ask you some questions, if that is acceptable." "Please," Alina said. "You spoke of your extinction events as if they were important lessons, but you did not mention the most important thing." Alina raised an eyebrow. "What did I miss?" "The cost," Puff said. "Each of those events killed millions, sometimes billions of your people. Parents watched their children die. Entire generations were lost. Cultures and languages and ways of life were destroyed forever. That is not just a lesson. That is a trauma that echoes through all of time." Alina was quiet for a moment. "You are right. I did not speak about that." "Why not?" "Because this chamber is about power," Alina said. "The delegates here understand strength and weakness. They understand strategy and resources. I spoke in terms they would understand." "But that is not the whole truth," Puff said. "No," Alina admitted, "it is not." The little alien's fur rippled, which Alina had learned was a sign of curiosity. "Will you tell me the whole truth, not as an ambassador, but as one being to another?" Alina looked at the tiny creature for a long time, then she nodded. "The truth is that every human carries the weight of those extinctions inside them. We do not just remember them in our history books. We feel them. They are written in our DNA. They shape how we think, how we feel, how we react to danger." She leaned back in the oversized chair. When a human child is afraid of the dark, they are remembering the night times when our ancestors had to hide from predators. When a human gets nervous in a crowd, they are remembering the plagues that spread through dense populations. When a human feels the urge to store extra food or supplies, they are remembering the famines that killed our ancestors. Puff listened quietly. We call it trauma, Alina continued. But it is more than that. It is survival instinct passed down through 100,000 years. Every fear, every anxiety, every dark thought that haunts our species. It exists because it once kept us alive. That sounds like a terrible burden, Puff said. It is, Alina agreed. Many humans struggle with it. We have diseases of the mind that seem to come from nowhere, but they are really echoes of ancient dangers. We have behaviors that make no sense in modern life but made perfect sense when survival was uncertain. She paused, but it is also a gift, because those instincts make us alert. They make us careful. They make us paranoid, yes, but in a universe full of dangers, paranoia can be useful. Puff's fur rippled again. I have studied many species in my long life. I have never met one that speaks of its own trauma so openly. Most species try to hide their weaknesses, Alina said. Humans have learned that hiding weakness does not make it go away. Better to acknowledge it, understand it, use it. Use it. Alina smiled. Our fear makes us creative. Our anxiety makes us prepare for every possibility. Our dark memories make us value peace and safety more than species who have never lost them. She turned to face Puff directly. You asked about the cost of our survival. The cost was enormous, impossible to truly measure, but we paid it. Every generation of humans has inherited that debt, and every generation has worked to make sure the payment was worth something. Puff was silent for a long time. Then she said, I have been a member of this council for 4,000 years. I have seen many species come and go. Some were powerful, some were wise, some were kind. Very few were all three. And what are humans? Alina asked. I do not know yet, Puff admitted, but I think you might be something new, something the galaxy has not seen before. Before Alina could respond, the doors to the council chamber opened. A tall, thin alien that served as the council's messenger stepped out. Ambassador Vasquez, the council is ready to see you. Alina stood up. Puff climbed down from her chair. Good luck, the Zelari said. Whatever happens, I am glad I spoke with you. Alina nodded and walked back into the chamber. The atmosphere had changed. When she had left, the delegates had been skeptical and dismissive. Now they watched her with something closer to respect, or perhaps fear. It was hard to tell with alien expressions. High Counselor Murasset spoke first. Ambassador Vasquez, we have discussed your application at length. There are many opinions among the delegates. Some believe your species is too young and too dangerous to be trusted with council membership. Others believe you have demonstrated qualities that would make you valuable allies. Alina stood straight and waited. We have decided to put the matter to a vote, but first we have some questions. Krelvax leaned forward. You spoke of 7 extinction events, but you did not mention the weapons your species created. The nuclear weapons, the biological weapons, the weapons that could destroy your entire world. No, Alina said, I did not. Why do you still have them? Alina considered her answer carefully. Because we have not yet learned to trust each other completely. We are working on it. But until we do, we keep the weapons as insurance. Insurance against what? Krelvax demanded. Against ourselves, Alina said simply. We know what we are capable of. We know the darkness that lives inside us. The weapons are a reminder of what we could become if we forget our lessons. This answer seemed to satisfy Krelvax, though it also seemed to disturb him. Representative Chitka spoke next. If humans join the council, what will you do if a threat arises that you cannot defeat? Will you surrender? Will you sacrifice others to save yourselves? Elena shook her head. We will never surrender. We will never sacrifice others for our own survival. We will fight until we cannot fight anymore, and then we will find new ways to fight. Even if it means your extinction, Chitka pressed. Yes, Elena said, because to do otherwise would make our survival meaningless. We did not endure 70,000 years of struggle just to become cowards when things get hard. The delegates murmured among themselves. Elena could not tell if the reaction was positive or negative. High Counselor Murriset raised a limb for silence. One final question, Ambassador. You have told us what humans have survived. You have told us what you have learned, but you have not told us what you want. Elena thought about this. It was perhaps the most important question she would be asked. We want what every species wants, she said finally. Safety, prosperity, a future for our children, but more than that. She paused, choosing her words with care. We want to matter. We want our suffering to have meant something. We want to take everything we learned from our darkest moments and use it to make the galaxy better. Her voice grew stronger. We want to stand beside you when danger comes. We want to share what we know about survival. We want to help other species avoid the disasters that nearly destroyed us. She looked around the chamber one last time. We want to prove that everything we went through was not for nothing, that all the death and pain and loss created something good, something that will last. That is what humans want. The chamber fell silent. Then High Counselor Murriset spoke. The Council will now vote on the membership application of the species known as humans. All those in favor. The vote was closer than Elena had expected. Nearly a third of the delegates voted against human membership. Another third abstained, unwilling to commit either way. But the remaining third voted in favor, and that was enough. Humans were admitted to the Galactic Council as provisional members. They would have limited voting rights and no representation on any major committees. They would be watched closely. They would be tested, but they were in. Elena walked out of the council chamber feeling lighter than she had in months. The weight of her entire species had been on her shoulders, and now, at least for the moment, it was lifted. Counselor Puff was waiting for her outside. Congratulations, the little alien said. You did well. Thank you for your vote, Elena said. She had noticed Puff raising her tiny limb in favor. I did not vote for you because of your speech, Puff said. I voted for you because of our conversation, because you told me the truth about your people, even the painful parts. Elena nodded. I meant what I said. Humans have learned that hiding weakness does not make it go away. A wise lesson, Puff agreed. I hope you will teach it to others. They walked together through the corridors of the council station. Around them, aliens of every size and shape went about their business. Many of them stopped to stare at Elena. Humans were still a curiosity here. What will you do now? Puff asked. Return to Earth, Elena said. Report to my government. Begin the process of integrating with the galactic community. That will not be easy. Many species will not accept you readily. They will test you, challenge you, try to prove that you do not belong. Elena smiled. We are used to that. Our entire history has been one long test. One more will not break us. They reached a viewing window that looked out on the stars. Millions of points of light stretching out in every direction. Somewhere out there, very far away, was Earth. A small blue planet that had nearly killed its inhabitants 7 times. Can I ask you something? Elena said. Of course. In all your years on the council, have you ever seen a species like us? One that has survived so much? Puff was quiet for a long time. Her fur rippled in complex patterns that Elena did not understand. Once, the Zelari finally said, long ago, before I joined the council, there was a species called the Vorn. They were survivors like you. Their world was harsh. Their history was filled with disasters. They came to the galaxy with the same determination, the same fire in their eyes. What happened to them? Puff's fur went still. They are gone now, not from any external threat. They simply burned out. Their survival instincts, their constant vigilance, their need to always be fighting something. It consumed them from within. They could not adapt to peace. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. You think that will happen to us? I do not know, Puff said honestly. You are different from the Vorn in many ways. You seem more aware of your own nature, more willing to examine yourselves, but the danger is real. She turned to face Alina directly. The galaxy is actually quite peaceful most of the time. There are dangers, yes, but there are also long periods of quiet, decades, centuries. What will humans do when there is nothing to fight, when there is no enemy to overcome, when survival is no longer in question? Alina did not have an answer. It was something she had never really considered. Humans had always been fighting something. What would they become when the fighting stopped? I suppose we will find out, she said finally. I suppose you will, Puff agreed. And for what it is worth, I hope you find a way. The galaxy could use a species like yours, one that knows the cost of survival, one that remembers the darkness. They stood in silence, watching the stars. There is one more thing you should know, Puff said. About the threats I mentioned earlier, the Void Plague, the Dark Fleet, the Silence. Alina turned to look at her. They are still out there. The Void Plague was contained but not destroyed. The Dark Fleet was beaten but not eliminated. And the Silence. Puff's fur rippled with what Alina now recognized as fear. The Silence is coming. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. It always comes. It has destroyed countless civilizations across countless galaxies, and when it arrives here, nothing in this galaxy will be able to stop it. Alina felt her heart beating faster. Nothing. Nothing we have tried so far. Every weapon, every strategy, every alliance. The Silence consumes them all. Then why did you vote to admit us? Alina asked. If everything is doomed anyway. Puff's fur rippled again, and this time it was something like hope. Because you are something new. You are survivors, not like the others who have simply avoided danger. You have faced extinction again and again and found ways to overcome it. Perhaps you will find a way to survive the Silence as well. Alina looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the light, something terrible was waiting. Something that had destroyed civilizations beyond counting. Something that was coming for them all. She should have been afraid. She should have been terrified. But instead, she felt something else. Something familiar. The same feeling her ancestors must have felt when they looked at the ash clouds of Toba, or the rats carrying plague, or the mushroom clouds rising over cities. It was the feeling of a challenge accepted, of a threat acknowledged, of a fight that would be fought. Tell me more about the Silence, Alina said. Tell me everything you know. Puff nodded slowly. It will take a long time. We have time, and we need to know what we are up against. The little alien began to speak, and Alina listened. She listened and she learned and she remembered, because that was what humans did. They faced the darkness. They studied it. They found its weaknesses. And then they survived. 50 years passed. Alina Vasquez was an old woman now. She had retired from diplomatic service long ago, but she still followed the news from the Galactic Council. She still kept track of humanity's progress among the stars. And it had been remarkable progress. Humans had spread to 100 worlds. They had built ships and stations and colonies. They had traded with dozens of species and formed alliances with a dozen more. They had proven themselves valuable members of the galactic community. But more than that, they had changed things, slowly, quietly, in ways that most species did not even notice. Human doctors had improved medical technology throughout the galaxy. Their experience with plagues and diseases had given them insights that other species lacked. Thousands of alien lives had been saved by human medicine. Human engineers had strengthened defenses across dozens of systems. Their paranoid, always preparing for disaster mindset had found weaknesses that others had overlooked. Colonial shields were stronger. Emergency systems were more reliable. Evacuation plans were more thorough. Human diplomats had resolved conflicts that had festered for centuries. Their experience with their own internal wars had taught them how enemies could become allies, how hatred could be transformed into understanding. And human scientists had been studying the silence. Alina sat in her garden on Earth, reading the latest report. It had taken decades of work, but they had finally made progress. The silence was not invincible. It could be hurt. It could be slowed. Perhaps with enough time and effort, it could be stopped. The report was technical, filled with terms that Alina did not fully understand. But the conclusion was clear. Humanity had found a weakness. Her communicator chimed. She answered it, and a holographic image appeared before her. It was Captain James Okonkwo of the Earth Defense Fleet. Alina had known his grandmother many years ago. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said, "I wanted you to hear this first. The Council has approved the human plan to confront the silence. We are being given command of the defense fleet." Alina felt tears forming in her eyes. "After all this time, they trust us." "They trust us because we have earned it," James said. "Because we showed them what humans can do, because of people like you." "I just talked to them," Alina said. "The real work was done by others. You convinced them to give us a chance. Without that chance, none of this would have happened." Alina was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you think we can win against the silence?" James smiled. It was the same smile Alina had worn 50 years ago, standing before the Council. The smile of someone who knew something others did not. "We survived Toba," he said. "We survived the plagues. We survived ourselves. The silence is just one more thing trying to kill us." His smile widened. "And we do not die easily." The communication ended and Alina sat alone in her garden. Above her, the stars were coming out. Millions of points of light, countless worlds, and somewhere out there in the darkness between galaxies, the silence was approaching. But humanity was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for 100,000 years. Every disaster, every extinction event, every dark chapter in their history had been leading to this. They would face the darkness, they would fight it, and they would survive. Because that was what humans did. That was what they had always done. And that was what they would always do. Alina closed her eyes and remembered all the stories. The ancestors who had huddled in caves while ash fell from the sky. The farmers who had learned to grow food when the ice came. The survivors who had buried their dead and kept living. The soldiers who had said never again and meant it. All of them, all of their struggles, all of their pain, all of their determination. It had led to this moment. And it had been worth it. The stars shone down on Earth, and somewhere in the galaxy, humanity's ships were gathering, preparing, ready to face the greatest threat the universe had ever known. They would not give up. They would not surrender. They would not let everything their ancestors had suffered be for nothing. They would survive. They would remember. And they would win.